All right, let's talk about Jamie Foxx in Spider-Man 3 really fast. I have a lot of theories about this, but I want to ask you guys this first and foremost. Do you find it really puzzling that the Marvel Cinematic Universe third Spider-Man movie is bringing back an actor from the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movies to play the same character?
If that's to me, that's a giant waving flag. I don't think he's going to be the only person from the movie, from the other Spider-Man films to show up.
Okay.
You
think like Andrew Garfield would show up?
I think they're going to strongly start hinting. And also, aren't we getting Doctor Strange first?
No, this will come first.
We're getting Spider-Man first.
Yes. WandaVision is going to open up the door to the multiverse.
Okay.
Wanda is going to show up in Doctor Strange, but part of this Marvel shuffle has now moved Doctor Strange back behind Spider-Man. I
think Jamie Foxx is going to have to show up. Yes. And when he sees Tom Holland, he's going to have to make some kind of a comment about like, wait, are you a new Spider-Man? Like, wait, you're not Spider-Man. You're not something has to happen. Like, this is maybe going to break open even the possibility of like, wait, like you're not Spider-Man. You're not the guy I fought.
Yeah.
Sean, stupid question for you. Into the Spider-Verse obviously had nothing. It doesn't play into the MCU, but that was a big introduction of the multiverse specifically, and that aspect. So I it's such an interesting thing that those two films couldn't be somehow.
I was going to say,
I'm
curious to find out how much of an influence the success of that movie had on them being open to doing this kind of stuff, because I think that because that's such a beloved movie and people just understood like there are different Spider-Men, and I'm familiar with all of this, and it completely worked. I wouldn't be surprised if we find out years down the line they're like, oh, when that worked, we were like, oh, we can do this crazy idea.
But I still feel like, yes, like it worked within our bubble, and I feel like within our film bubble, like it really introduced a lot of us to the multiverse. I still find that the average moviegoer out there, the people that watch our morning shows, Kevin, we still are going to have to explain to them the concept of the multiverse, and we're going to have to explain to them the whole idea of, because like keep in mind, like Spider-Verse did well, but it didn't do astronomically well. Like it, like in the same way that it took a while for the MCU to pan out, it's going to take a while for people to be able to wrap their brains around this whole,
But the CW DC shows have now done it by bleeding over their Flash, Arrow.
But even those shows like don't do well, and I'm still 100%. Having people come to me about like, wait, I don't understand how Michael Keaton's coming back. Like I'm still having like Kevin, you talk about your anchors. I have like producers writing me like, wait, like it's Ben Affleck and Michael Keaton. Like what is it? And so like I still like as excited as we all are because like it's in our wheelhouse.
Yeah,
I still think it's going to be a slow and steady process because you've got to make sure the average person at home understands why all these people are in the same movie.
So here's my theory then. This is how I think that they can get to it. I think you can introduce Electro in this third Spider-Man movie, proving that there is now a transition from the Andrew Garfield world into the Tom Holland world, so that when they build to a Sinister Six movie, that is the threat that warrants the need for the three Spider-Men to come together. Like,
wait, so who's all in the Sinister Six? We know it's Keaton.
Well, you would have Keaton, you would have Gyllenhaal.
Yeah, Jared Leto.
You would have Jared Leto as Morbius. You could bring in Michael Mando, who's been teased as the Scorpion. He was in Homecoming.
Okay.
You could have Jamie Foxx as Mysterio, and you could bring over Tom Hardy as Venom.
Jamie Foxx as Electro.
As Electro, yeah.
Yeah.
But haven't they kind of been playing Tom Hardy as like the hero though? Like was it like that was one of my knocks against Venom, is it like he wasn't the bad guy? Dude, is there Venom, any chance they would bring back Willem Dafoe as Green Goblin?
There's a chance for sure. I would rather.
Or he died though.
Oh yeah, he did. I'd rather have them bring back Alfred Molina as Dr. Octopus, truthfully.
Oh, he was great. God,
Which is surprising because you don't love that movie. That's my favorite Spider-Man film next to Far From Home. And I love Alfred Molina in that movie.
I like it a lot. I think it made a couple of changes to his origin that bother me. But I'd rather see him come back than Thomas Hayden Church as a Sandman.
Damn it, Sean, why did you put that idea in my head? Because now if that's not what happens, I'm going to be because that's such a great idea.
Yeah. It's $1 billion idea. It is a $1 billion idea that if you're building up your Sonyverse, and you introduce a Sinister Six, it's such an intimidating threat that they have to use the multiverse.
So is the Sinister Six movie the movie that brings all three Spider-Men together, or is there a Sinister Six movie and then another movie with the 3 Spider-Men.
No, I would assume that would be the one that brings them all.
Oh, I want this.
That's what
I'm not going to lie to you. Jake was talking about, like, we're in this film bubble. I'm confused by this stuff. Like, this stuff confuses me. I honestly had... there's so much, and I think, like, it's going to be... They're going to have to really hammer it into audiences, like Jake was saying. Jake, I want to bring this up real quick, because you asked Tom Holland about this at the Far From Home junket, and what did he say?
At first, well, it was funny because it was almost as if at least the other 2 people in the room, because as we've talked about often, Zendaya was also in the room as well as Jacob Batalon. And when I asked the question, he was. When I asked the question, he's there. It was a weird angle. Both Jacob Batalon and Zendaya both sort of perked up and going like, oh, wow, that's cool. Like almost as if like they hadn't really thought about it or it hadn't been brought up. And they were both like, oh, that's cool. That's really cool. That's all. Like, could we do that? Would we want to do that? Yeah. And Tom Holland just sort of sat there.
He was very quiet.
He was very quiet. And then they both kind of like looked at him. And then they started dying laughing as if like he knew something. And then he kind of started trying to give like this generic junket answer that didn't play to the question. And then he kind of paused and goes, no, like, of course, it would be awesome if we could get all the guys in a movie like that would be, you know. But there was definitely, it was interesting that the 2 of them, Zendaya and Jacob, their initial reaction was like, oh, I hadn't even thought about that. That sounds cool. And Tom was very silent in how he goes. You know, Tom obviously has the reputation of spoiling stuff, and and maybe I'm overthinking it, but I don't know if you guys have seen the video. It really seemed like he was holding something back.
I watched it recently, and I noticed how quiet he was being, which makes me think like I can't imagine how often you are around the Marvel offices, and I think John Watts told us this when we were having our spoiler conversation with him, where he's just like every room you look into, someone's working on an anticipated project. That there aren't meetings where they say to Tom Holland, yeah, and then eventually we'll just get to a point where we can build up to a Sinister Six, and maybe we'll bring in Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire, and he has to sit on that, you know, and not reveal it in any way, shape, or form. Whereas I'd be grabbing everybody I could find and being like, guess what they're gonna do? You have no idea. They're talking about this.
Sean, correct me if I'm wrong on this. So we did a podcast interview with John Watts, as Sean just mentioned. If you want to find it, you can search for it. It was actually really cool. We were in London with him. What did he say again about whether or not J.K. Simmons' character was not the same J. Jonah Jameson from the Tobey Maguire films? I was confused by that.
Correct. He said it's not the same version. It's a J. Jonah Jameson. And just simply when they wanted to recast that character, he's so ingrained as J. Jonah Jameson that they had to use him, which is why I don't think, like, when you cast Jamie Foxx as Electro, he doesn't have the same married to the role the way J.K. Simmons did. Like, if you say I'm going to bring back J. Jonah Jameson,
the makeup,
everyone's like, oh my God, you have to get J.K. Simmons or don't bother. But then the minute you say I'm going to bring over Electro, you can say, like, well, anyone can play Electro. It's not like Jamie Foxx put such a stamp on it. So
I would also flag that as one of those Marvel quotes that they say, and then when you find out there's a multiverse and that J. Jonah Jameson actually just looks like that in 2 different universes or whatever. Like, I could see that coming back.
Because also keep in mind, didn't he have hair in Far From Home, and he was. Or no, he had hair in the Maguire. Yeah, he had hair in the Maguire. Like, dude, how great would that be if Tobey Maguire in the new like multiverse Spider-Man sees the bald J. Jonah Jameson and just gets to have just a fun like, oh, you're bald in this one.
Yeah, right, exactly. There's plenty of things that they could do.
Oh my God, I want this movie now.
Now, is Tobey Maguire too old to do this?
I guess if he is, you play with that. You run into it.
Yeah. They can play. But I also, oh God, that scene is terrible.
It's awful.
Did Sam Raimi ever apologize for that?
No, he didn't.
Well, isn't it like
he just stopped making them?
He stopped making movies.
But that was his apology. Here's the interesting thing, but this is unfortunate the way that these movies fall. Sam Raimi is directing Doctor Strange into the Multiverse.
Amazing.
Doctor Strange in the Multiverse.
Is
there any way that like they'd give him
back
the
to Spider-Man?
They'd bring him back to Spider-Man?
Or that's the movie that, okay, so, here you go. So you have the 3rd Spider-Man movie. You introduce Electro, and he's bleeding over from the Andrew Garfield world. Andrew Garfield's like, what are you talking about? There's a multiverse. There are other versions of Spider-Man out there. That movie ends. It goes to the Doctor Strange movie. Doctor Strange is going through all the different multiverses, and Sam Raimi brings Tobey Maguire back. And then that feeds into the Sinister Six movie, which is due to come out after. where all these villains are now together, and Doctor Strange introduces Tobey Maguire to Tom Holland and Andrew Garfield.
How do you get?
That sounds awesome. All right, here's my question then. So if you have different actors playing Spider-Man,
Yes.
why wouldn't you have a different actor playing Electro if it's a different universe, if it's the multiverse?
Well, only because, like, there theoretically, yes, there would be other Electros out there. There could be
Right.
an Electro already in Tom Holland's world, but you're just using that character as someone who comes over from the Andrew Garfield world to at least show that, like, there's a character that can come over, sort of thing.
But can Jamie Foxx's Electro actually have interact with Tom Holland's Spider-Man?
Sure, yeah. If he comes over into Tom Holland's version of the universe.
Yeah.
Because I'm just thinking of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, right?
Yeah.
There were different. There was a female Spider-Man. There was a multiple different Spider-Man. So I'm just trying to understand how this all works. I mean, it's really like Spider-Verse actually did a really good job of making it concise. To a point where I understood it. Just
enough changes with the origin in each of the different universes to make them different. Like in the Spider-Gwen universe, she's the one who gets bit instead of Peter. It's just that slight tweak, so you're like, oh, okay, well, that's the origin story of that universe's Spider-Man kind of thing.
It's basically the equivalent of like when you're a kid and you have all these like different toys from different series, like, and you play with them all together. Like you didn't say like, oh, like, these Ninja Turtles can't play with these Ninja Turtles because they're from two different series. You just kind of like played it. Like that's basically like now all the kids that grew up doing that are now doing it cinematically. They're doing it in movies.
So could we theoretically see a scene where Tom Holland, Andrew Garfield, and Tobey Maguire team up as three Spider-Mans and fight people?
I think we're going to see that.
Yes.
Like that would be.
But then again, I also thought we were going to see a scene with Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, and Princess Leia, and we never got that either.
Well, we maybe would have gotten that. Yeah.
We might have.
Maybe.
I very well believe that we would have probably gotten to that point.
Han died in 7. How are we going to do that?
Kill Han in 7.
Oh.
He showed back up in 9.
Yeah, he showed back up in 9. Yeah. They could have done it as a.
Oh God! I forgot that was a scene.
I love that scene.
I like
love
that scene too. I like that he calls him kid.
Hey,
yeah.
kid.
I'm with Jake on
like
that.
An astral projection of Han.
That was a Force ghost.
No,
right?
But I think we all chalk that up to that's probably a scene that was meant for Carrie that she never got to shoot. Wasn't that the theory?
That's a good point. I didn't think about that.
That it was originally going to be his mother, and that was because it was Carrie.
I think that story was going to be very much heavy on Carrie's relationship.
Yeah,
I mean, they always said that it was supposed to be Carrie's movie.
Yeah,
but it makes sense that it's Han because Han, he killed him. He killed his father.
Yeah, but it doesn't make sense
if
that
it had been
Han's not a
Carrie
Jedi.
Yeah.
So it couldn't be a Force
Let's
ghost.
stop talking about Star Wars.
Can he be Can Han be a Force ghost?
No.
He's
not
not
a
Force.
Jedi.
No, he can't be. You're right.
If
Ray
can be a Palpatine, then all bets are off. Anybody can be anything.